So this is a video crash course in Rhinoceros to get you familiar, if you are not already, with the software, functions and tools and interface. So when you open Rhino, this is what it will look like. It has 4 different views of the model space that you can click in and to activate each one. There are these the tools up here in the ribbon, different kinds of tools, curved tools, surface, solids, meshes. Those are also found in these tabs. So we have our standard tools along there, construction planes, views, and then if you get along down a little further, there's tools for curves, surfaces, solids, meshes, same thing that was up in the ribbon. There's also a command line, so if you're familiar at all with the AutoCAD interface, you will often be interacting with the software using this command line. So any of those tools that I just showed quickly, you can also type the command, say for line, hit enter, and then start drawing that line. So that always be looking here. It might ask you for some additional input that you need to give at the command line. So go back to the standard tab. We also have these tools over here, so you can just pick any of these tools to start drawing or modeling. You can also hold down on here and it will show you additional tools that are hidden from view. So this was just that basic line that I drew. You can get it the same just by clicking through here and draw the same way. So you notice also the great thing about Rhino that is happening automatically is that it's drawing or representing these lines in all 4 of these views at the same time. It's the same exact geometry, just from a different viewport, which is nice. It can show you this kind of plan, a perspective view, and front and right. These are also changeable, so you can click on the little arrow here and change that view to be any other view that you like. You can also save views. We'll get to that a little later. And you can also, by double-clicking on this tab, it will bring up that one viewport alone in the on the screen, which will be handy when we get into Grasshopper. That's a way that we will often be showing the Rhino modeling. Okay, so looking down here at the bottom, there's these same tabs, so you can click and go now full screen into each of those views. There's also similar, again, I mentioned AutoCAD, so if you're familiar, there's same kind of snaps and ortho settings down here. So obviously, grid snap will snap everything you're modeling or drafting to the grid. Ortho will only draw things orthogonally, so at 90-degree angles. Let's see, there's also the O-snap, which is snapping. If you click that, it will bring up these check boxes that you can say you want to check. You want to have everything that you're modeling snap into endpoints, and that will do that for you by checking next to whatever box you would like to have snap. Gumball is a really kind of quick modeling modification method that when you highlight a certain object and have the gumball selected, you can move it around or rotate it just by using these XYZ axes, which is helpful if you're doing something that's kind of abstract and quick, but not if you're trying to do it very accurately. So we'll look over here on the right side. There's several more tabs. Anytime any object has this property, so this is, you can highlight that object, and it will tell you what type of object it is. So that's an open curve. And most important on here is what layer it's on. Excuse me, what layer it's on. This one, it's on the default layer right now. So the next tab over here is all your layers. So you'll want to make sure that you're putting things on a layer, an appropriate layer. Don't have everything on your default layer. You can rename these layers to be things that make sense to you. You can have different types of walls. You can have floors. You can have different materials on different layers. So whatever makes sense for your model. And then when you highlight that, go back to properties, you can change its layer by this method of highlighting, clicking on this arrow and selecting which layer you want it to be, that object to be on. All right. So a lot of what I want to go over quickly is in terms of the tools that we need to be able to know about is listed here in this Word document, Rhino commands you should know. So take a look at all of these, and I'm going to go through some of them pretty briefly so that some things make sense, but you should try to experiment with all of these modeling, drafting, representation methods and types. So we've gone over some of the kind of interface basics already. So I've left save on here because it's a reminder to save your work often. But also this document, this Word document, has all of these as hyperlinks to the McNeil website, where it can tell you more about how to actually run these commands if it doesn't make sense to you as you're doing it. So be sure to click on them if you need some additional tips. All right. So went over a lot of these, as I said, these interface ones. So we can move on to just the 2D drafting tools. And I'll highlight all of those and then hit delete to just clear my modeling space. So really basically, there's the point. You can create points. I'm right-clicking to tell the command line to repeat that same command again. So I can draw lots of different points if I wanted those as center points or anchor points of some geometry that I'm going to draw next. And then we went over line already. There's lots of different ways to draw circles. Lots of different ways to also draw rectangles or ellipses or arcs or polygons. So this is a good one to notice once you click on this, what the command line is asking you up here. So it has the default values is a number of sides is 5. You can change that by clicking on there and changing it to 6. And so now you'll be drawing a hexagon instead of the default pentagon. And then just other ways to draw that same pentagon or hexagon. All right. This is another one that is really useful. There's different types of drawing curves. So try to experiment with those different ways and that you can draw different kinds of curves in using these control points and different methods to control the shape of your curves. So then let's scroll down in our Word document to the simple operations. So those would be here in transform. These all of these, and again, you can also get them by typing in the command into the command to the command line that you want to. So I would like to move something, and then it asks me to select which objects to move. So I select on that hexagon. It says to press enter when done. You can either hit enter on your keyboard or you can right click, and that also signifies enter. And then it asks you for a distance, so you can just click and click again and it will move it. Or you can go through all that again and say you wanted that corner to be on that point. Hit point down here on your O-snaps, and it will snap to that point that you defined earlier. So those are these are all the kind of simple operations moves, as I called them: copy, rotate, scale, mirror, orient. Orient is a really interesting one that if you want to say you had a rectangle and you wanted to put that edge of the hexagon onto that side of the rectangle, you would say orient. You're going to orient this object, hit enter, reference point 1, reference point 2, and then put them there and there. So orient is really useful when you start modeling things. All right, so then let's see, the ones that I have listed include explode. So explode is really useful at times if you didn't want that to be a hexagon, but you wanted to operate it somehow on individual segments, you would explode it. And now you can highlight each of those segments, delete they no longer is no longer is a hexagon, it's just 6 line segments. Offset, these are familiar for you if you're familiar with AutoCAD. Very similar initial ways of starting to draft. So then that's a very quick overview of drafting. Then let's go do a quick beginning of modeling. So we're talking about planes and 3-dimensional objects. So the first one here is there's different types of planes. So there's lots of different ways to draw planes. The simplest is just this 2-point. It's just like drawing a rectangle, but it has a plane here instead of being 4 segments. So the way you can sort of verify that is if you go back up here, instead of the default is wireframe, if you make it rendered, now this is shown differently than the rest of the object. This is a plane, and this is just a rectangle. All right, and then just similar to the drafting tools, there's all kinds of kind of default objects. From the simplest boxes and spheres to more complicated truncated pyramids and toruses and ellipsoids, things like that, that are basic geometry kind of default shapes. So play around with those and see what kind of basic shapes are available. Then there's some methods of making two-dimensional shapes that you've drawn into 3-dimensional shapes. So we can just use this circle that I drew earlier, and we can extrude that extrude curve. Select that curve, hit enter, and then start to drag upwards, and it will give you a three-dimensional shape. Now we have a tin can or something, but as opposed to these ones that are sort of they're closed surfaces, this one is an open extrusion. The method of changing that into a solid is a tool called cap. So you just type cap in there, select that object, and it will cap it for you. So now this is a solid or a closed polysurface. So it's a closed object that we can do other operations to. So those are extrude curve, extrude. So we can also extrude surface. Let's see, extrude surface. So that's down here. We can extrude that surface that we had before. It has a bottom on it, but we can cap it and make it into a box. Okay. So then look at your list of the Rhino commands. You should know document, and there's several other ways of creating solid models from two-dimensional lines. The one that I do want to go over is called loft. So if we have two or more different curves, let's get a kind of funny curve there, and we can let's use the gumball to raise that up here, and now so it's up in the air. So now we can actually loft. Let's see, in between these surfaces, and it will give us a much more complicated shape that would be really difficult to describe with other objects. But it was created rather simply, and obviously this was some random curves that I drew. We can have much more control over the curves and have much more probably elegant shapes than that. But that's just an example of a tool that we'll use often in Rhino and Grasshopper shortly. I do want to go over a couple of the scrolling down on our list of operations to the more complex operations. There's a really great one, well, a couple of ones that I want to highlight. The first is called section. So if we can actually cut a section through this really complicated object, so let's just type that command and see what it is asking us for. So select objects for section. We want to get a section of this surface, and then we'll hit enter. And then it's asked us to start, where's the start of section? So we actually can just draw a line. So say I wanted to cut a section through that thing kind of diagonally. And now see this highlighted line. We'll go back to the perspective. That highlighted line is actually this section cut through that line, that diagonal line that I drew. So now we have that two-dimensional information again. It's a flat piece of geometry of that three-dimensional geometry. So that's really useful. Then we can export that to Illustrator and make it into an actual drafted document if we wanted to. The other one is called contour. So let's type contour, and again it's asking us for which objects we want to contour. and the base. So we're going to actually look at this from the front. And let's say that it's just at the bottom. And then we want to go up. And then it asks us for the distance between contours. So I'm not sure what the scale of that object is, but let's just say it's 1. So now it's given us a series of horizontal lines that are contour, sort of horizontal sections, every 1 unit of that object. So that's really cool. We can then separate all of these out on the plane, and then, for example, laser cut each of those, stack them up out of chipboard or whatever material, and actually have a physical model of this funny form. So contour is really powerful, useful tool to use for these forms. So again, keep going on this list of tools, and experiment with what they each do, and play around with starting to model. I think the only one the last one that I want to highlight is the Boolean operations. So there's on our document, there's 4 Booleans: Boolean difference, Boolean intersection, Boolean split, and Boolean union. And what that means, what that actually does, is so that if we take this sphere that we drew earlier and actually move it over here so it's intersecting that cube. Like that. Now if we did Boolean difference, let's see what it's asking. Select surfaces or polysurfaces to subtract from. So what we want to do is use this sphere to cut away that corner of the cube. So we want to select first the cube and then hit enter. And then select surfaces or polysurfaces to subtract with. We select the sphere and hit enter. And now it's taken a sphere bite out of that corner. And now you can imagine that if we did several different operations like that, we could get really, really complicated forms by using simple forms and pretty simple operations over time. So Booleans are really another powerful, useful, often used tool that we should get familiar with in Rhino. So that is all for this really quick dive into Rhino, and look forward to talking to you more about it.